right, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Liberalish podcast. This is episode 21. So this podcast can legally drink right now.
Let's go.
All right. So I'm joined by my lovely co-host. We'll start off with the lovely, the beautiful, the intelligent Carly. Let's start off with New York's finest, Ryan.
Yo, what's good?
Marcus, he's here too.
I am here too. Great intro as always.
Yeah, hey, it's a work in progress. We've only been 21 episodes in. Like, once we get that first like major deal, like I'll step it up.
Okay, got it.
All right,
something to work towards.
I think that's fair.
Something to work towards. Exactly. So hopefully the crooked media guys pick this up someday. All right, so let's talk about the podcast we're going to talk about today. Oh, first off, shout out to our listeners. Shout out to our new listeners. So if you're a new podcast listener or a new listener to this episode, what we are Liberalish Podcast. We are the political wing of the What You Expect Network. We are just a bunch of people that virtually sit around a kitchen table just to discuss politics. We're not insiders yet. We're not politicians yet. We're working on it. But as of right now, we're just like regular people just talking about like today's headlines. So in today's pod, we're going to talk about what's going on in Congress. We are going to talk about headlines. Next, we're going to just briefly touch on like foreign policy, and then Governor's Gone Wild to wrap up the podcast. All right.
Sounds good.
So let's just dive right in. So first things first, shout out to the $10 minimum wage. So if you're looking forward to a $15 minimum wage, you are way too greedy. So shout out to the $10 minimum wage.
This is not the time nor the place, they said.
The Senate parliamentarian rejected the idea of including the $15 minimum wage in the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. So basically, in order for this to happen, it has to be a standalone bill, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that's going to require 60 votes in the Senate to get it passed. We can barely get 50 votes. So I think the $15 minimum wage is dead. So let me ask you guys a couple of questions. Number one, do you believe that Democratic leadership wanted this to die the way it did?
Of course, because they always wanted to stay in the middle, like to be safe. So they put on a little front that they actually fought for it, but actually they put no pressure. There was nothing behind it. The only noise that was coming out was from the Republicans and from the Joe Manchin type Democrats who weren't in favor of a $15 minimum wage, even though it wasn't a proposed minimum wage. At one point, it was a gradual implementation that was suggested by Senator Sanders and everybody involved in crafting that portion of the bill. But Democrats weren't pushing at all. Republicans again come out to be more hawkish, got what they needed, like no $15 minimum wage.
Yeah, Ryan, that's actually a good point, because now I'm like sitting here wondering like, what happened to those so-called like centrist Republicans, like your Susan Collins, your Lisa Murkowski's, your Mitt Romney's. Like, look, where are they in this whole discussion? You know what I mean? Shouldn't they also be like kind of pushing for like a $15 minimum wage?
Oh no, it's just safe. It's safe politics, It's safe politics to say, restaurants, small business is gonna get hammered by if they get asked to pay for all of this when it makes no sense. Like like if you influence the community by providing an influx of cash, it will just benefit small business more because people will be more good in a better position to spend money and stuff like that. And support them, what Bernie Sanders was basically saying was provide incentives to small businesses and stuff like that. But again, like it's not good capitalism, free market idea.
Right.
It was against free market idea to even have a minimum wage. So that's where we at with it.
So I feel like the $10 minimum wage is pretty insulting.
Very, very insulting.
It's not even like it's going to happen like tomorrow if they do pass it. It's going to be a gradual increase, I believe, to 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was my point. Like, my whole point is the $15 minimum wage. I don't know why I had, like, in a way, I'm like, it's $15. Like at the very least, like I would have been like, okay, maybe at the very least, if they were like, we're gonna give you the $15 minimum wage in 5 years, I would have been like, at least we got it. A little like at least we got a piece of what we wanted. But for you to then say, okay, we'll give you 10, but you're not even going to get it right now is insulting. Because people don't need, first of all, people need more than $15. And if you're going to give them the increase, they need it now. Like now is the time where people need to see the increase, not 5 years from now.
I have a question for y'all.
Yeah.
What's the hardest job y'all ever worked? Like, let's be real.
Oh my God.
What's the hardest job y'all ever worked?
It's probably like not my last job, but I worked at a big bank and that job sucked.
Marcus, what's the hardest job you ever worked at?
Hardest job I ever worked at was probably as a digital merchant assistant at Macy's when I got out of college, which is a corporate job. So
yeah,
that was my hardest job.
Cory, what's the hardest job you ever had?
Victoria's Secret.
See, that's the answer that most Americans have. Like the hardest job, the argument against the $15 minimum wage for regular people is that do you really want to?
As someone who has worked in retail
that's what I'm saying.
For a bulk of her like jobs, like starting from like high school, a bulk of my jobs have been retail jobs. I was in college and I worked retail. And if I was still working retail right now and I came to find out like, oh, the minimum wage is going to increase to $10, I would feel so defeated. Like I probably would have quit. No bullshit. Cause I can't no longer do it. Like you anticipate something that's not even really a lot. Like $15 minimum wage to most people is like a big increase. But in the grand scheme of things, it's really nothing. It's really totals out to nothing. And you tell me like, okay, we're not gonna give you the 15. We'll give you 10, but we're not gonna give you 10 now. We'll give you 10 in 5 years. I don't need the money in 5 years. I need the money now. Like I need to see the increase in my paycheck now. I don't need to see it 5 years from now. Cause I don't know. For me, fortunately, those were jobs I held like through college, like to make extra money or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Some people try to survive or are surviving
off
of minimum wage jobs, like fast food, retail, like, low wage job. This is not like a part-time job for them. It's like how I pay my bills, how I take care of myself, how I take care of my family or kids if I have them. And it's hard. It's difficult.
And that's where my point come back to it, right? Is that if you look at when you ask people what's the hardest job they ever had, it's normally goes back to those retail jobs. And then most people opposing minimum wage increase argument is that people flipping burger gonna make $15 an hour. But again, as Carly said, that's sometimes people's livelihood. That's the job they can do, and you're not gonna do it, so somebody gotta do it.
And I also feel like people be like, oh, if you're making X amount into something, get a new job.
Yeah, like
if it was that easy, if it was really that simple to solve the problem, like, oh, let me just get a better paying job. The range for like better paying jobs are limited, especially if you're talking about people who are younger or people who don't have like a college education, who only have a high school education. If I'm working first of all, let's understand something. If I'm working at fast food restaurants or retail jobs, it's probably not by choice. Like, it's probably not because I genuinely want to be there. It's because like, I got to do what I got to do. So it's not as simple as like, oh, I'm going to go find me a job that pays more than whatever. Because if that was the case, then I would be working there. I'm obviously working at my job, making how much I'm making because that's what I have to do. But I don't think they see it that way. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's a disconnect. And there's always going to be a disconnect as long as there is a wealth gap in this country. Because people at the top don't see it from the perspective of somebody who's working these jobs.
Well, no, they see it from the point of view of businesses.
Exactly.
That's one of the biggest issues. Like, there's this what's something that senators and people in Congress do is they do this dollar for dollars thing, where the people that are able to kind of bend their ear and kind of form their opinions on policy are people that have money and have to deal with the issues. And they're not hearing that out from people that are working for minimum wage jobs. They're hearing it out from business owners, whether it's small businesses or big businesses, telling them, oh, I can't afford to pay my workers $15 an hour or $12 an hour, which is, I think, the proposal that Hillary Clinton made back in 2016 that we were like raking her over the coals over. But it's like,
right.
over and over again, like we wonder like why something like this isn't popular, even though I think just this year, I think Florida, which is a red state, just enacted a $15 minimum wage. And I think there are 7 other states that have $15 minimum wage. It's ridiculous that you can get up here and have states that this is a popular thing. This is something that has popular support, but because a certain class of people don't want it or don't feel like it's necessary, let's just say, oh, only teenagers are going to have those jobs. Why are we giving them $15 an hour?
And that's
the reason why. That's not the case at all, but they don't know that. People in Congress don't know that because
they're out of touch.
There's a touch gap. There's this huge like out of touch gap that's has not been kind of fixed.
Yeah, it's an age thing. It's a class thing, and if you eliminate all those, it's just like for me, it goes back to like me just saying like it doesn't hurt to just give people a little bit more when they're already struggling. Like, is it going to make a huge difference in these people's lives if you up the minimum wage to 15? Monumentally so? No, probably not. Like, they're probably still going to struggle in their day-to-day. But at least it's like, here's a little extra something. But we've done the number.
Sorry, no, continue. I'm sorry.
It just goes back to what I'm saying in the sense that if you really look at it and you do the numbers, it's not a lot. It's really not a lot. And it's not going to make the difference, for Congress to do it. And it's going to make all the difference to these people who work in these jobs and who are struggling, So I don't understand. A part of me understands the logic in the sense that, like I said, it's them being out of touch, disconnected, not really speaking, not really aiming to help people at the bottom because they're not at the bottom. So they don't really understand what these people go through. But I just kind of feel like that's contradictory to like what they're supposed to be doing in Congress. Like you're supposed to be thinking about, these people who don't have a lot, who struggle to get by on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And the thing is like, kind of touching upon like the out of touchness of the Senate. The polling data shows that majority of Americans want the $15 minimum wage, kind of what Marcus was alluding to. And then there's another poll here that shows that majority of Americans believe that the government spends too little on anti-poverty or healthcare education.
They do.
Of course.
I think there's another poll out there that said like Bernie Sanders has like a higher approval rating than like Biden does. Yeah. So like there's clearly like a very strong urge from the American people, at least, that hey, they want the Democrats to push at these bold progressive ideas, which I don't think this is like that bold at all. But
there's a common refrain that I've heard about what is it? I think that Democrats have kind of focused for so long on social issues at the expense of economic issues. I think now you're kind of seeing an American public that's like, okay, we need to focus on economic issues for now and for once. I don't know if that'll come at the expense of social issues, but definitely people are hurting right now, and they want to make sure that their wallets are secure, that their paychecks are secured, and they're able to make money, at this time and going forward. So I think that's kind of what you're seeing with these polling results.
You remember when I tell you? Do you remember when I said that, like that 50, 60 plus senators is like 35% of the population?
Yeah, that's
that 35% of the population that's holding all of us back, because the polling can look very good for all of that, but once those senators know the same thing that we know, like 35% of the people in America have more say than 65% of the people in America, like because of the states and the way the Senate is designed. So no matter what the poll says, the poll has always favored abortion. The polls have always favored progressive ideas, like even by like majority, and it never happens because they still got to deal with the monster that's in the Senate, and that's what it is.
There's a conservative agenda too that kind of strictly states that you can't, that government should not be involved in markets. Government should not be dictating business policy. So, and I think there are true believers. There are, people like Mitch McConnell who are like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to stay in power. But there are also people that truly believe that that's the best way to go to keep government out of business.
Do y'all remember about have y'all ever heard about the collective action problem, right? Y'all heard about that, right?
Yeah.
Like basically, it's easier for a small group of individuals to accomplish something than it is for a larger group of individuals to accomplish something. Right. So if you look at the Republican Party, there's elements in there that are very effective at getting what they want. The evangelist movement, at the CPAC, they're very driven. The NRA for a long time was very driven before the bankruptcy scare in New York and whatever. Like they were very driven. Small group. NRA was controlling gun policy in a country with 365 million people, and they only had like 2 million members.
Yeah.
Just like you had to really think about it. Like people were getting killed in school, and the NRA didn't want to pass the gun control to pass. So what?
Well,
with 2 million members and going bankrupt.
We all know the NRA definitely passed like gun laws, or at least like gun control laws when Black people had the guns.
Of course.
So
the California incident when the Black Panthers marched with assault rifle onto the California state Capitol steps, I think, and then a couple weeks later, they had gun control in California.
Yeah. Sidebar. I just saw the movie Judas and the Black Messiah.
Black Power, man.
Really good movie, but that shit was that was really deep.
It's also always gut wrenching to me when I watch movies like that. It's because like, yo, this really happened.
Right.
Like, and it's like, and I knew it happened. And it's sad because also like I'm starting to get to a point where I can no longer like stomach like movies about, Black trauma and stuff like that, because it doesn't have to be that way. Like, and I just feel like, I don't know, everybody, you could obviously watch it on your own time. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's like, when you really break down the Black Panthers, like, I feel like it was just a misunderstanding, but it wasn't really a misunderstanding because it's like, they didn't want, like, the FBI, like white people, like J. Edgar Hoover didn't try to understand like what the Black Panthers were trying to do.
No.
He just
understood 100% what they were trying to do. That was the problem.
He just saw it as a threat.
But see, no, that's what I'm saying. It's a misunderstanding because it wasn't a threat. Like you shouldn't have took it that way.
No.
A self-reliant Black community is a threat to America. Because that means they don't need the government, they don't need the pandering, they're gonna feel like they're equal to white people. Black people could finally, the whole issue is assimilation,
It was deeper than that. It was just like they were recruiting like white people, like the racist white people in their ranks because they all want the same thing. They just want the government to actually acknowledge people and actually work for us. That's what J. Edgar Hoover was saying. That's the biggest threat.
I hate J. Edgar Hoover.
What was wild though is like J. Edgar Hoover saw the Panthers as a bigger threat than like Russia and China. Which is like, we still get movies about how Russia's the enemy, even though Russia's economy is the size of Texas.
Yeah.
We still get to hear that talk about like this, hear that back then.
In the midst of the Cold War, like that's how he looked at it.
Yeah,
that was his reading the situation.
Yeah, that was just absolutely nuts to me, but whatever. It is what it is. All right, so let's get off this Congress topic. Let me just ask you one last question. All right, so I don't know if you guys heard Paul McCartney's bet, but he said that he is going to bet his house, his personal home, that Republicans were going to regain the majority in the House in 2022. So do you think he's
Paul
right?
McCartney?
Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy, okay. Sorry. My bad.
All good.
I thought you were talking about the Beatles guy.
No, when you said Paul, bro, everybody was silent, bro.
You guys gotta stop me. Kevin McCarthy.
He's a Republican too?
I was waiting for you to go to where you were going. I didn't know who you were talking about. I was like, the Beatles guy? Like, I'm interested. He has a take on it.
We're gonna get a cease and desist from Paul McCartney now.
Okay.
I don't think he's wrong. I've been saying it. Biden
I don't think it's wrong either.
I don't think it's wrong that they take the Senate. I don't think he's wrong that they're going to take the House, because again, Republicans have chosen a hill to die on, and that's the racist hill, and that's the hill they're going to really die on. Democrats we have no identity.
Yeah,
like
no hill.
There is no hill that Democrats is going to die on. Everything is compromise, partisanship. Oh, we got to work together. Hold on, kumbaya, kneeling, kente cloth. Nothing to energize the public. Nothing substantial. Like there's no hill that we're dying on. Like there's no policy that we're coming out and saying this is what we're going to pass. Fuck whoever is in the opposition. This is it. It's not happening. Like they soft, baby lotion soft.
I'll take that bet. I'm not worried about the enthusiasm gap. So I'll take that bet from Kevin McCarthy. If he wants to put up his house for the House and the Senate, I'll take it.
Okay. All right.
You think we're gonna win?
I think that's. Yeah, I do. I just think that's. How do I put this? I'm just because I do think the Democrats should be doing more. At the same time, they've been in power for a month, and they spent the first month doing impeachment shit instead of focusing on the economy. And I think that I think they'll have two things in their hands. One, we'll get out of this COVID shit. Right? I think we'll get out of COVID based on the way things are going now by the end of the year, which will be a boon for them. Two, I think that's getting the COVID bill out sometime this month, actually, I guess in the next week or so. That's also going to help them a lot. I think once you have those two things done, I think that should be enough. That's something that you can sell. That's something that you can go into different neighborhoods, different communities and say, hey, we took care of COVID. Was totally mismanaged by the Republicans. They didn't even acknowledge it. The president tried to wish it away, and it didn't go away. Killed 500,000 people or more, depending on how it happens in the next few months. We fixed that. We also got you guys some money to kind of get you guys through this. We didn't give you enough. We had to deal with Republican obstruction on one end, and then we could only get you guys $1,400 because Joe Manchin was like, "Fuck it," and we don't even fuck with that guy. But that's West Virginia. We don't give a fuck about West Virginia. I think they'll hold on to enough so that they can still kind of maintain power, even though history is up against them. I think these are extraordinary times, and I think that should be enough to kind of push them over. So yeah, I'll take the Kevin McCarthy bet any day of the week.
Yeah, actually, my counter to that was just going to be like history is not very fair to the incumbent president, no matter which party there are.
I think it's flipped the last 3 or 4 times, right?
Yeah, something along those lines. And the Democratic majority in the House is already really slim. So I can just see it that Republicans will probably take over the majority in the House, but the Democrats could probably maintain the Senate.
And another point too. I think that the gains the Republicans made this year came because Trump was on the ballot. We saw just in Georgia in January, when he's not on the ballot, Republicans don't turn out for that guy.
Did you watch the CPAC?
No, I honestly did not. What am I gonna watch CPAC for?
Trump said.
You watch CPAC?
I watched the highlights.
I watched the highlights too.
It's good to study your enemies.
I agree with that to an extent, but I can only take so much.
Trump said that he's gonna be more involved. So 2022, you better hope that he's gonna be basically on the ticket. He's not forming a new party, and he's probably gonna run in 2024. So midterm, he's gonna be basically he can't touch everywhere, but in the trouble seats, they're gonna send him there if he wants them to be there. If he wants to go.
He was involved in 2018. He was involved when Alabama had their first Democratic senator since the early 90s. Kentucky.
All right. We can't.
Kentucky.
So
I'm saying
push back on you on that. I'm gonna push back on you on the Alabama stuff.
Push back
because that guy was a predator, a madman, all of that.
Right. And he barely lost.
And he barely lost. And
I'm saying
a few hillbillies had the courage, man. A few hillbillies had the courage, bro.
Trump was like, "Yeah, that's my guy."
I don't know, bro. I don't know. I mean, also you can't use Kentucky because weirdly Kentucky as this history of always electing Democratic governor, and like their state assembly and state senate has always been Republican control. So they always try to find that they all in Kentucky. That's one thing I'm gonna give them as a sovereign state. They always try to find that balance of having that one Democrat owning statewide office, and it's normally a governor. So I don't.
Yeah, that happens in some Northeast states too. Like
Yeah.
PA is one, and Massachusetts is another where that happens at. I think
It's happened in New Jersey too. We've had Chris Christie before that, Christie Whitman. So
Oh, true.
yeah, Maryland's another state as well that has the same kind of relationship. It's weird.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. I never understood that, but I guess like people just want that balance.
Like what I can't understand is like in a state like Kentucky, like that's so like deeply like Republican, like like how your governor is the Democrat. It's kind of weird.
I think it's mostly to do to gerrymandering, to be honest. I think like those local Senate districts.
They stick all the black people in one place.
Yeah, I think they're just heavily gerrymandered, which is why like you see it's on both sides. Unfortunately,
it's the same shit that happened in Mississippi right now.
Yeah, Mississippi has 40% black, but black people never had political power there.
Yep. Mississippi is the most diverse state in the union, like or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Is it a 1 or 2? I think.
It's up there. All right, so since we're talking about CPAC, what are any other noteworthy things we should take away from CPAC?
Oh my gosh, it's like watching a mad comedy. I love watching it. So it's going crazy. Did you see Ted Cruz fiery speech? Like a lot of hands throwing, like everybody up there, like they're so animated, like they're like comedy. It's like watching a skit.
So do you think like they just pregame before they go on stage?
Oh, you want to know what I think is because they see how Trump behaved and it was successful. That's how they think the good thing is. Like Josh Hawley came mad animated, Ted Cruz came mad animated. It's all the guys that you think are gonna run in 2024 that came in like I'm gonna. It's like watching the Tom and Jerry movie all over again.
How is Ted Cruz there when like Texas still doesn't have like full power back yet?
He doesn't care about. He doesn't care about them.
Texas or the people in Texas. Care. Come on now. Like I don't know what else he had to do to make it more clear. Like he tried to go on vacation in the middle of like what they were going through. He didn't do that on. He meant that was a clear like message. Like I do not care.
He dead joked at it. He joked about it. Like it's Orlando isn't like Cancun, but it's nice. It's nice in Orlando. He dead said that. I'm like, oh my god. It's
a joke to him.
They said Ted Cruz as a public humiliation fetish. That's the only reason why he keeps embarrassing himself every day.
Yeah.
I have a wild take. Like
what's your wild take?
I feel like like they know there's a yin and there's a yang. They don't have to be together. They're just two separate, but they're like opposite separate. I feel like Ted Cruz is Cory Booker is what Ted Cruz is to the Republican Party, what Cory Booker is to the Democratic Party. They've been
why you gotta drag Cory Booker?
If you really look at it,
somewhere like what did
if you really look at it, both of these guys,
I want to hear this.
Both of them basically has had the same trajectory. Like Ted Cruz got into politics at the Ivy. Cory Booker got into politics at the Ivy. Like they both were like firmly set on becoming president. Like if you speak, even like those interviews with Cory Booker's classmate or Ted Cruz classmates, there's like, yo, these people have been running for president since they were like in college. Like, and he said like all the other offices that they serve in were just like steps to get to become president. And that's how I look at both of them. And it's always little funny mishaps happening to those two. Like, like when you think of the Democratic Party, there's like no better representation. The current state of the party, no better representation than Cory Booker. Don't really know where he stands sometimes, but he's down for the cause no matter what. Same with Ted Cruz, no matter what bad stuff could come his way in the Republican Party, he's still riding. Like even when Trump called his wife ugly and called his father a killer.
Still wild.
We're gonna turn this into a clip. I'm gonna turn this into a clip, Ryan. I'm gonna tag Cory Booker, and I hope someone responds back to this. That's a wild take, man.
No, it's not. You really look at it. It's like they serve a certain purpose for each of their party.
Like, no, I know like Cory Booker can be like out there sometimes, but I'm not gonna put him
To
the
compare
same
him to
concept.
Ted
man.
Cruz.
If this was a
Yeah.
conservative podcast, they would agree with me because they would look at Cory Booker's record and like, this guy. Like, name me one substantial thing that Ted Cruz have done, and name me one substantial thing Cory Booker has done. You actually have to sit down and think about it, mad hard. They're always in the news.
Yeah.
That's not fair. That's not
They're
fair.
always in the news. They do nothing.
But that's not fair because like
Ted Cruz did shut down the government in 2000. What was that? 2012.
Yeah, he did shut down the government. He put his foot down on that one.
For nothing.
He did it to stick the middle finger up to Obama, man.
He did that.
Wow.
Not even Republicans are on board with that one, but
I know sometimes his colleagues sees Ted Cruz and be like, yo, I hope people really don't think this is what I'm like. Like people probably don't even want to hang around him. He just look like a bad vibes to be around.
He's a weasel. He's a weasel.
I will say, like, I wholeheartedly believe that like Ted Cruz is not a good person.
No,
like he's like in my reason, because see, there's a lot of politicians who like I don't agree with like their like some of the things that they say and some of the things that they do, but I don't look at them and it's like, oh, I just don't like your policies. I don't really have an opinion on you like as a person. But like I wholeheartedly know that Ted Cruz is like an evil human being.
Let me just put it like this. Like
that's my take on Mitt Romney.
I don't like Mitt Romney. Like I know for a fact it has nothing to do. It's his policies, and I just don't like him as a person. Like it's like ew.
I think.
Did you guys ever watch the?
I think Mitt Romney is a cool guy. I'm just putting it out there. I don't think Mitt Romney is a bad person. I think Mitt Romney is
he's just Mormon.
Yeah, like
he's just a regular Mormon guy. That's all I got from
a regular Mormon guy.
Yeah, like,
I did a Netflix documentary a few years ago. It was really just following the 2012 election. I was like,
I gotta watch that
guy.
I gotta watch that. Yeah, that was really
I felt the same way about Mitt Romney and John McCain. Like I don't think they're bad people. Like I don't think Mitt Romney is the evil dude. Like if you look at Mitt Romney as actually.
Oh, I don't think he's evil. I just don't like him.
Even like Mitt Romney policies, like in Massachusetts when he was a governor, like they were very like he gave universal health care. Basically, the Obamacare was Romney care that they just took from what he inputted in Massachusetts and just put some other things in it. But like he did socialist policies in Massachusetts, and nobody really talk about that. Like Obamacare is Romney care.
Yeah, it is. I think he also pushed for that child credit.
Yep.
Yeah, he introduced the bill for like $2,000, I think.
Yeah. So, I feel like that's a person I could sit down and argue policy with and not question his belief. You know, like I don't like he's about criminal justice. The funny shit, he's about like reforming like criminal justice system, all of that. Like and even though they talk bad about him, he still stands up and say, yo, it is what it is. Like that's just my belief.
He could be trying to right his wrongs for his dad because his dad was governor of Michigan during the Detroit riots. So maybe that's a reason. I don't know.
Maybe, bro. Maybe.
All right. So shout out to Cory Booker for that one.
Sorry, Cory.
All right.
Wasn't me, Cory.
Yeah,
it wasn't me, Cory.
It was me. What the fuck?
We do not endorse this.
You gonna send his hitters for me from Jersey?
No.
He possibly could. I don't know this guy.
I'm sure, but no, I'm sure being compared to Ted Cruz would like definitely have me feeling some type of way. Like, what did I do?
Right. Like he did nothing.
I may have done some things you don't like. They serve the same purpose
in their party,
but I feel
bro.
like
I'd be tight.
They serve the same purpose in their party, bro. They send them off for distraction. Like if you think of Democrats, you think Cory Booker. Think of Republicans, you think of Ted Cruz.
You could have picked like Tim Kaine. You could have picked someone else.
I don't. Tim Kaine doesn't stand out, bro. Like I could walk past Tim Kaine like on a regular day. Like I'm like, who the fuck is that?
Sorry to this man. I don't mean to sound ridiculous.
All right. Let's not get us canceled after 21 episodes. All right. So moving on to other headlines.
We need that clicks, bro. We need those clicks.
We do need those clips. We need to go viral. So moving on to other headlines. Shout out to former Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler. She sold her share of the WNBA's Atlanta Dream. So shout out to that. And it seems like Renee Montgomery, who was part of the ownership group that purchased it from her, is going to be the first former WNBA player to own a team. So it's good news there.
We love that.
It's great news.
That's really good news.
Like History Month.
It's not great news. Not great news for me. I'm not satisfied until Kelly Loeffler is in jail for insider trading. Sorry.
She's
Baby steps, Ryan.
Right, you know.
I don't believe in baby steps, bro.
That's an unrelated
Right.
It's unrelated.
I feel like
be happy.
I'm not happy with small progress, man.
Ryan got on the pod today and chose violence.
I'm
not,
bro.
That's what happens when you listen to Pooh Shiesty before the pod.
Right.
Bro, I'm not. This is the thing. Like, I realized that for so long, like we were being happy for small.
But I will say I share the same sentiment because it's like enough is enough. Bro.
Yeah, I'm not celebrating. I'm not celebrating that, bro.
Like people, I will say this one thing that I know she probably won't. Nothing will happen to her, but I will say it is infuriating and it's frustrating when people get away with like stuff. But then you got Kelly Loeffler really did insider trading and she needs to go to jail for it. But then you got people who do stuff like small level crimes and low level things. And the government it's exacerbated. Like it's exaggerated. It's like really, and I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. But then a senator can just get away with insider trading. Okay, cool.
This is how I see it, right? Say hypothetically, my man's in the hood scammed 5,000 from the government, right? He's getting mad ears or
upstate everything.
Getting sent to the big house.
Yeah.
Kelly Loeffler can gamble on the American people health, freaking do insider trading, become rich off a pandemic that killed 500,000 people, and she's still sitting in some mansion.
Make no mistake, her selling her share in the WNBA makes no difference. Like she's still very rich.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not. It might sound fucked up, but I'm not celebrating or selling her WNBA team because at the end of the day, it's still a sale that she made.
Yeah, I'm happy for the WNBA player who bought it from her. Like that's Miami, so that's wonderful. Yeah. But I agree. I think it's kind of messed up how we kind of have normalized rich people, famous people getting away with things. And I never understood that. I feel like it should be easier because they're in the spotlight. I know for a fact you did this.
That's my thing. It's not hard. And it's the wild part about it is that both of them did it. What's the other one name?
David Perdue.
All insider trading. Lock them up. You lock Wesley Snipes up for freaking missing tax evasion. Lock them up.
Sweet Martha Stewart went to prison for tax evasion. And all she does is sell pots and pans.
Come on, man.
Insider trading.
Bro, the reason why this is all getting...
But I'm saying why Martha got to go to jail, or why Martha got to go to prison, but Kelly don't.
I don't see how the American government or the person that selected Kelly Loeffler to replace that senator don't see the conflict of interest of selecting somebody to be in the Senate, that their husband is the president of the NASDAQ or Wall Street. Kelly Loeffler's husband is the chairman of Wall Street, or something like that.
He's the president of the New York Stock Exchange.
Yep. So what are we doing here?
It seems like the perfect candidate to be a senator for me. Look, I mean, I'm not.
Those are the prerequisites to being a senator.
I'm not defending the feds at all, especially after watching Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm not going to defend the feds. But the feds did investigate the senators, and it's very, very difficult to prove that a senator committed insider trading because the senator, to get out of that, will just say, well, we got it from the New York Times to trade, or we got it from this news article that told us to trade. What should happen, though, is that once you join Congress at some capacity, you should not be able to trade.
Profit from that.
But that's what AOC said, and then people attacked her.
It's like AOC for everything that she said.
Yes, that's true. But I'm saying she literally said that and explained herself and why, and people told her to shut up.
Everyone just tells that poor girl to shut up. I feel so bad for her sometimes. She'd be saying real shit, and people would be like, "Shut up! You don't know what you're talking about."
AOC is a real one. AOC is a real one.
Yeah, shout out to AOC.
Shout out to AOC.
Yeah,
you know what? I feel like a couple people on here know what's my beef with her. But shout out to AOC. I love you to death.
Oh, right.
Please,
No,
Ryan.
no,
Okay,
no.
already. Like,
We need
one
to
beef is
establish a no
enough.
poo shiesty before the pod rule.
Right.
I'm assuming her beef is she's a Brooklyn Nets fan.
No.
Right?
It's fine. It's fine if you want to be a fan of the Jersey Nets, but some things, we're gonna discuss it offline.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So some more good news here. Looking at COVID, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has been approved. It's only one shot. So that's going to be good. Somewhere in America, Meghan McCain is still waiting to take her shot. I don't know if you guys saw that clip or not.
Did she get upset?
Let me just say this. First of all, I don't like Meghan McCain. Like,
who likes Meghan McCain?
Conservatives, I guess, and they don't even
like her.
I was just about to say they don't even like her. My thing was like I was good with what she said up until she had to throw in the fact that she was the co-host of the View. If you would have left that part out, I would have been like, yeah, same girl, me too. Like, yeah, I feel you. But it was like she had, and that's Meghan's problem. Like, Meghan always has to add a little extra something that solidifies, like, girl, I really don't like you. And for me, that was that. Like, you could have left that out and your point would have still been valid. Like, oh, you really want to take the vaccine? Yes, cool. I understand. A lot of people have expressed that they want to get the vaccine, but it's unavailable for them at this point in time. Right. You felt the need to say, oh, me, Meghan McCain, co-host of The View. Like, bitch, that's supposed to mean something.
Well, the thing is that her frustration is a state issue, which is actually kind of ironic because like she's a conservative, conservatives believe in state rights. Her issue is actually a state issue. If she doesn't know when she's gonna get the vaccine, it's her state's responsibility to lay out a plan and schedule for her. All the feds do,
but then that would take away. But then that would, if she did that, then that would take away. That would be something she couldn't complain about.
I know.
Like,
the 10th Amendment says all things not guaranteed to the federal government should be assigned to who? The states. So she needs to go pick that up with her governor.
She needs to pick that up with
state local reps.
Who's also a Republican. So
a censored Republican though. Maybe that's the beef. Maybe that's why she doesn't want to go to him.
Maybe she knows he can't speak.
Isn't her mom censored too? So like they got something in common.
That's a.
All right. So in light of that good COVID news, so number of new cases has stopped falling. Fourth wave could be on the horizon. So stay indoors.
Fourth wave? Is this the French Republic?
I don't know when the third wave was.
This has to be like the French Republic, bro. Every day is a new wave.
Right. Either French or Haiti, one of those two.
Nah, because it's in France. It was like the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth Republic.
You're right. You're right. They're never happy up there. All right. So that takes care of headlines. All right. So moving on to foreign policy. All right. So so President Biden commenced his first airstrike in the Middle East. He did so by bombing an Iranian-backed militia in Syria. So before I jump on to the Saudi Arabia piece, let me get you guys' thoughts on that a little bit.
I don't know if y'all want to go first. I'll go after.
I know, Ryan.
All right,
go right ahead.
So I see a lot of chatter on Twitter, like people saying, "Oh, chatter, bro, chatter and tweeters." I see a lot of
tweeting.
I see a lot of Twitter fingers.
Ryan's just putting his podcast on his back right now.
I see a lot of people on Twitter talking about like, "Yo, why do that? Oh, Biden already did his first airstrike." I'm like, "Yo, bro, please shut up and just go read an article." Like, feel me? Like, this is an Iranian-backed militia that's been like, like they position themselves in Syria and been using that as basically as a forward base to launch attacks against the U.S. and its allies. You're in war. What the fuck you expect to happen? Like, he's not going to reply.
Who have they launched an attack on though?
They launched on the. It wasn't against the Syria. It was against the militia that was funded by Iraq. By Iran.
From Iran. It was like an Iranian proxy.
Proxy. Feel me? Like that. Then they've been using. And they use since because the Syrian civil war is still going on, and Assad, I think, is friendly to the Iranians. So it basically served as a launching point for them to launch attacks on the U.S. troops. So to get to ensure safety of the US-backed coalition, that's what needed to happen. It's not like they did it to try to kill Syrian people. They did it to take out somebody that was posing threats to Americans. I don't agree with the premise of why we're in the Middle East in the first place, but that's not neither here nor here, because it's not Biden's fault. Biden put us in the Middle East, and even people don't understand. Even Trump came and it was like, oh, my goal is to end these endless wars. But I think that sounds good on the campaign trail, but when you come into real office, you face the real issue of I can't remove all of these United States forces, because if I move out of the Middle East is a quagmire. It's going to fall apart. So there's no control. Saudi Arabia and Iran would just go at it, and everybody else around it would get involved, and it would just make the situation worse. This is why we're in the Middle East. And I think a lot of people don't see it that way. And, I get the isolationist view, but we're already there. I know it's an endless war that's costing trillions of dollars, but you can't just get up and leave. And you still got to protect the people that's still there. So if there's a enemy base that could be attacked, they attack. This wasn't like a preemptive strike. There's a strike in retaliation for another attack on U.S. coalition forces. And a lot of people don't really think of that. They just look at Twitter headline, Biden launched first airstrike.
But wasn't this airstrike in retaliation from something that happened a month ago?
It still had to happen,
Right, but I'm saying, wasn't there something that happened before? Exactly.
So that's why it's not like Biden get up one day and be like, oh, I'm gonna bomb these people. And that's what I don't think a lot of people understand. I also feel like
a lot of people don't even understand that these things happen. It's not like, oh, because I feel like a lot of people say the same thing about Obama. And just in general, just certain things that, whatever. I could see if it was like, oh, Biden just randomly decided to, launch a missile, because then it's like, oh, well, what the fuck, why? But it happened because there's some ongoing shit that's going on, and we're a part of it.
Damn, the people both call me Republican for saying all of that, but
so yeah, I was actually going to push back on some of that because number one, the rollout for the reason why that they said it was kind of iffy, right? I think Jen Psaki came out and it's like it was a show of force, and then after the fact, they were adding additional information to saying, well, they were allegedly attacking U.S. troops and also Iraqi-based troops, right? Mm-hmm. That was the excuse that they provided.
Yeah.
Me personally, the whole reason is why, right? I mean, as long as you have American soldiers stationed in Iraq, you're always going to put them in harm's way. Why are we putting ourselves in the Syrian civil war? That part I don't quite understand. And then the second thing is, aren't we also supposed to be negotiating a nuclear peace treaty with the Iranians? So attacking them isn't necessarily going to get them towards the bargaining table as well. I don't really understand it. And even on top of that, they were so trigger happy to launch this attack, they didn't really notify Congress about it. So
though they did, I will say they did inform them within there's a 48-hour window, I guess, in the War Powers Resolution, I think it's called. They did inform Congress within the 48 hours after the attack, just to let them know, hey, I think Biden even wrote a letter saying, hey, this is what happened. I want to keep you guys informed and in the loop of what's going on. So
well,
I'll throw that out there.
No one reads a letter, and then two, I think that needs to be
They read the letter.
That needs to be altered, because if we're going to launch a strike against someone, potentially causing a war,
right?
Congress really needs to be notified, and top of the American people need to be notified. I don't think the president, regardless of party, should have the right to just say, I'm going to bomb you today. I'm going to bomb you today. And then tell us the reason completely after the fact. I just don't agree with that.
You think it should come before?
I think it should completely come before. Absolutely. But I also think that why are U.S. troops still stationed in those areas though?
Yeah.
What is their purpose? What is the mission? Because we just were told in Afghanistan, we spent trillions of dollars in Afghanistan, and we were told that U.S. generals didn't even understood what the mission was there. So what is our overall mission in the Middle East outside of protecting American oil interests? What else is there?
so So I'm gonna see if I could push back a little. So to go back on the why we're in the Middle East, I think we got ourselves in a situation. Like the thing with the United States is that I don't believe that the United States can do nation building. I don't believe any country should be engaged in nation building another nation. You know, I think everybody is a sovereign nation, and unless some genocide level event is happening, like what happened in Rwanda, where we stood out magically, like there should be no invention.
We don't even do that. There was a whole genocide in Myanmar.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't intervene there.
Thank you.
There was ongoing conflicts in the Congo. We don't even talk about that. There's a genocide allegedly that's going on in Ethiopia. We're not launching an airstrike
and especially with Myanmar, which is I believe still ongoing. We know about it. Like it's not like nobody's informed about what's going on. No, people are informed. Like there was, I remember like just knowing about, like there was like a guy, he was there like doing like a special project about what was going on. And he was following them from like village to village, seeing what they were doing. And he came back home and said something about it.
Right.
And let them know, like, this is what's going on. I have proof. I've taken pictures. I've kept up with this thing because that's what I was doing over there. And it was kind of like, oh, y'all hear something?
Yeah.
Like we don't, and that's why I'm saying, like, I feel like when it comes down to it, we do involve ourselves in other people's stuff. But it don't even be the stuff where I feel like we should intervene. Like, of course, if there is a genocide, I don't feel like genocide is right. And I feel like as many people, if they're aware of the genocide going on, should do something to stop it. But we tend to involve ourselves in shit that has nothing to do with us. And then it's catastrophic for us because, like you said, this has the potential to start a war. And should we really be going to war right now? No.
So if you really think about it, right? Y'all know Tony Stark, right? Like, Tony Stark, basically when he created Vision or whatever, Ultron, whatever that is called, right?
Where are you going with this?
I'm scared.
The United States. No. Really think about it. The United States in this role basically is Tony Stark. We created our own problem. First of all, when the Iraq War was a mistake, we went on a false pretense. We created the problem.
That wasn't a mistake, man. That was on purpose.
But it should never happen.
It should never happen. So we there now, like, and now we created a problem that we have to solve. Just like Tony Stark created Ultron, like that was his own creation that turned on him. And that's the thing, when they got rid of Saddam Hussein, they didn't know, like, oh, the country is run. Just like when they did the partition of Africa by creating countries instead of not understanding, like, people live like in tribes and stuff. Like, you can't put these two groups of people to live together and expect them to correlate and stuff.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. Yeah. The same approach they went into Iraq with. I'm going to get rid of this person. We're just going to walk in, form a coalition government, and leave. They didn't do enough research, because I've seen, like, the policy, like, thing that in class, like, they drew up with the risk and all the projected outcomes. This was supposed to be like a couple months max. George Bush was declaring victory on a ship, like, a couple months into the war, like, feel me? Because they didn't expect insurgency, which is kind of crazy. Because if you look at Afghanistan history, like with the Soviet and them, like, that's the same thing that happened. Soviet came in force, they just can't hold the base. So what they do is insurgency, like, and now the United States is battling insurgency in all of these places.
Look, man, at the end of so let's go back to your Tony Stark reference, because Tony Stark, at the end of the day,
is a villain.
No,
he created his own problem.
No. He was the head.
Look, man, I'm not on no billionaire side, boy.
Hold on. Hear me out. He was the head of a defense agency in that Marvel world, no? Right? He was the head of a defense agency.
No, he had a private company that...
Okay, a private
he was a private defense contractor.
Defense contractor. And that in and of itself lies the issue. The military-industrial complex forces us to go to war continuously. And that is the issue. And that's like my overall issue with this airstrike in Syria. There was just no need for it. Like, if your soldiers are in danger, just move them, get rid of them, pull them out.
That's not how war works, though. Because if you move that, say realistically, Kev, they take your advice, they move them, right?
Yeah.
What is the enemy going to do?
What they're doing right now. Like I'm just really confused by this because we were okay. Hold on. We were in Iraq for how long, man? We were in Iraq since I was like what 9-10 years old. We just talked about how I'm 29 right now. Like we've seen the insurgency. We've seen all of it. We've seen it all.
They just want us to this. We just so the when Obama started pulling up, what happened? Who came about?
Come in. So what do you think?
No. Who came about?
ISIS grows. ISIS grows, but there's kind of a confluence of events there. It was pulling out, and there was also some changes in climate and economic factors that also kind of created, the Islamic State or the uprising for the Islamic State, and the fall of Syria and
yes. I agree with you, but what I'm saying, right? The minute the United States started doing troop withdrawal, we started seeing videos popping up on YouTube, mass dudes busting niggas' necks on YouTube, bro. Like, come on.
We
like
saw
that,
Jihadi John.
But we saw
Jihadi John.
Ryan,
you seen a white ginger.
Ryan, we were seeing that right before George Bush got reelected. We were seeing that.
But I'm saying, like, when ISIS came to power when the troop withdrawal was happening, they took over like so much space in so little time. Like it shows what could happen. Like it doesn't matter. Like, it's the same thing with what's happening on the DMZ, right? It's all about deterrence, like keeping troops, those 10,000 troops in on that DMZ line isn't like some mighty show of force, but it serves as a deterrence, just like the United States troops in the Middle East, in my opinion, serves as a deterrence.
I think the soldier station overseas is not so much as a deterrence. It's more so they're just there to protect American interests. We have soldiers stationed in England. We have soldiers stationed in Italy. We have soldiers stationed
for training purposes. Because NATO.
That's just protecting American interests, man.
That's NATO, bro. That's NATO.
NATO is us. That's it.
NATO isn't us, bro. Come on. We probably paid the most, but it's not us, bro.
It's us. That's all NATO is. It's just us.
I'm not jacking that, bro.
Okay, man. That's NATO's just us, man. I'm sorry. I hate to say it. NATO's just us. European defenses is horrible. Besides like France, Poland, and the UK, other than that, they're shit. They're horrible. You know what I mean? Like right. Japan's constitution, when we rewrote Japan's constitution, we told them they can't have an armed military anymore. They can only have like a defense force, meaning they can only attack you when you attack them. We did that.
but now Japan has one of the most effective military force in the world. So like they can't shoot you. You have to shoot them first. That's all. I feel like all nations need defense forces, not militaries. Like
I hear you, but if
you're right. But there's too much money in that for the US though.
Do y'all know that the idea of having a standing military is a brand new idea? Like the countries weren't normally have standing, like the United States big on military and all of that. Like it's probably like around the creation of the United States, like 1800s, that countries started having military like ready to go at war whenever time comes, like, and it became popular as we go. Normally countries don't really have soldiers, like to me, like it's not no standing military. Like they just train whenever war comes. They gather a force. They never used to be like, oh, I'm a soldier as a as an occupation type thing.
That sounds right, because the idea of like a whole nation state is also relatively new. I think it like you can go back to the middle of the 19th century for the concept to even exist. So sounds right.
Yeah, right. I learned that in a class called War. Don't ask me why I studied war, but it was an elective. It seemed fun. It was not. But yeah, like it was really not. But if you really look at it like militaries were formed, like just the new concept of having soldiers ready to go to war just started. And if you didn't have it back in the days, you just order mercenaries.
That's right. I mean, that's like Switzerland, basically, what they have.
Entire Switzerland. Yeah, good point.
All right, so let's talk about the other bit of foreign policy. I didn't think that we were going to cut that light of discussion there, but so the U.S. This might be a shocker to everyone here, but the U.S. revealed that Saudi Arabia's Prince MBS, I'm not going to pronounce his full name.
I got it. Mohammed bin Salman.
Okay, guys. Okay, I see.
Nah, you got to pronounce his whole title now.
MBS, bro. I'm American.
MBS sound like a bank.
It does. It does sound like a bank.
I mean, he has enough money to be a bank. So.
It really does. So basically, he ordered the hit on Khashoggi, that reporter that was brutally murdered. Was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago? Time's flown.
Yeah, time's
2 years ago.
I think it's 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2019.
Anyways, the report came out that Prince MBS.
Wow, actually, it was 3 years ago, October 2018.
2018. Okay.
It's like towards the end.
Someone's calling me during potting. All right.
Okay, Joe Budden.
That's a good one. All right. So thoughts on that? Do you think like the U.S. should like sanction MBS or just say, hey, you get one murder, buddy?
So I have one sentence to go back off my point that MBS is like a bank. He's just too big to fail, y'all.
I see the same thing too. I think we kind of big up Saudi Arabia so much. There's nothing we can really do.
It's Saudi Arabia could get away with everything bad that they're doing for the next 50 years for however how long, because that they're the United States' most powerful ally in the Middle East. If they stop supporting them, they turn to Russia or China. They pivot. Yeah. United States loses influence. So it's literally is just too big to fail for foreign policy. And like
not only that. Like the sovereign wealth fund, like they started like investing in so much of like U.S. tech companies and U.S. industries. Like they've kind of like embedded themselves into so much what happens here. So they're untouchable. Like you can't really threaten them in any like meaningful way. Unfortunately,
you can't. We've been up
that's the same thing that happened. Why we can't really, it flies under the radar. We can't say nothing to them about what's happening in Yemen. Like and even in U.S. news, you could see it. Like it's barely covered. Like they're launching airstrikes like every day, starvation happening, everything happening. You gotta understand, like the evilness of Saudi Arabia is so underplayed. Like Saudi Arabia had the Lebanese prime minister, called him to the palace and had him forced him to resign on TV from his position. They forced the head of another sovereign nation to resign outside of his country in Saudi Arabia under pressure. And what had happened was the people of Lebanon said, yo, we're not accepting this because he looked like he was under duress, you know, and that's so much power they have in the Middle East. Like it's actually disgusting. But I think because they kind of equal out the old Iran situation, that's why it's just the horse that we back. It's a dictator that we approved.
We approve a lot of dictators.
But didn't they basically didn't they kind of weasel their way out of not sanctioning him? Didn't they say like didn't they try to justify, the White House try to justify their reasoning for it? Didn't they say like their justification was
they did something.
We don't sanction like foreign leaders.
Basically.
It was the like the geopolitical importance was too great or something like that. So we really can't. We want to, but we can't. Was basically their excuse for not imposing sanctions.
It was just like, I don't know if I remember, but most of the 9/11 bombers were from Saudi Arabia, and like I think the Supreme Court passed some. I think like the Supreme Court passed something like, yo, you could, or somebody tried to pass something that says you could sue Saudi Arabia directly for the influence, and like I think President Trump try to shoot it down, like because they're so like influential.
They're rich.
Yeah, they're also bailing out Kushner, his son-in-law, as well, from Kushner Company's real estate boondoggles. So he didn't want to have that. Can't fuck with his money.
Yeah, you can't fuck with money. No.
It's all about the money.
That's all right, man. All right, so moving on. This is our last bit. Then we have to get out of here because we're a little bit over. Governor's gone wild. So my governor, the great Ron DeSantis, I didn't hear about this. He's allegedly trading access to COVID vaccines for political donations. Is that with the Publix person? Whoever wrote this down?
I wrote it down. I I don't know if it's the Publix person, but apparently they're like a bunch. I've seen a few tweets today that's come out that like he's like selling access to vaccines for donations. It wouldn't surprise me given that we know the Publix heiress was behind the insurrection or supporting the insurrection.
She supported it financially, yeah.
Yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me if she was in some way connected with this, or she was like, "Hey, Ronnie, I'll give you, what can I do to kind of get a vaccine?" And that's kind of the trade that they made. But yeah, just it's just Florida, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because if you want to get the vaccine, I think Publix was like the initial rollout spot.
I
And
think they just got announced earlier today that they're going to be
Yeah.
one of the main distributors now for Florida. Which
yeah, they're going to be one of the main distributors.
how convenient.
Very convenient, man. All right, Kristi Noem, South Dakota's governor, and dark horse for 2024 GOP presidential nomination. She continues to downplay COVID, despite her state having a worse infection rate than most countries. And no one lives in South Dakota, which is nuts.
Nobody.
To me. You're already socially distanced from everyone in South Dakota.
Basically.
I just don't get that. But whatever. All right. And then Andrew Cuomo had his second aide come out with sexual harassment allegations. Let me ask the podcast this. Is it curtains for Cuomo?
I gotta say, I'm gonna say yes, but it just came out. Bill de Blasio just suggested that Cuomo should resign if an investigation into the sexual harassment allegations are corroborated by the accusations. And there's a third aide who's come out now.
The girls are fighting.
So yeah, he's got to go.
Did you guys see Cuomo's play for that independent investigation that he wanted to hire someone that he knew to run the independent investigation? Cuomo's a nasty dude.
He said, "Listen, I know I did it, and okay, like I said, I'm sorry, but
he
this
really
is no."
doing that. Yeah.
He's like my guy from Billions, Chuck. The way he moves, man.
He's calling people, cursing them on the phone, like, yo.
This is so crazy sidebar. I used to love that show just because that guy used to have flips out on people on the phone like that. But I don't know. I gotta go back to watching Bill. This show's great.
I feel like the last after Bobby got arrested, that's kind of got fell off a little.
Yeah,
it kind of got very slow to me. So
yeah, not too much Taylor, but still good.
I felt like the storyline just got overplayed too much, right? It was just too much Tom and Jerry-esque, and it's just villain, please.
I feel like that's the thing. Every season of something that you produce, normally there's an underlying storyline that's building up all through the season, but every season got one big villain, and it's just Chuck and whatever Axelrod was just going at it for the whole show. Right. And it's 5 seasons. It's like watching that Malcolm and Marie movie. It's like watching those two people argue for the whole 2 hours. It's just nuts to me.
Still gotta watch that movie though.
First of all,
waste of
time. You really don't.
You really don't. You really don't. That was.
Well, yeah, I'll say, yeah.
I wasted 2 hours of my life watching 2 people argue. Bro.
However, I will argue.
Carly, 2 people.
I will argue. Okay, yes, I will argue that it does open up discussion for broader themes when it comes to relationships and communication. So it's not completely a waste if you would take it in that way. But if you view it as 2 people arguing for 2 hours, of course you're going to see it that way. But if you look at the underlying themes, it'll spark some conversation.
All underlying themes I seen was just turn Netflix on and go to Hulu. That's what I did. That movie was bad. First of all, I hate movies with only two people in it, 2 or 5.
That's the point.
Like that.
It's tough to do. It's very tough to do.
But it was a great movie, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
I don't know.
They in the same place. Son just want.
It could have been 45 minutes and gotten us out of there. Just save us some time.
Bro,
2 hours.
But then it wouldn't have been a movie.
First of all, I would not argue for 2 hours. I state my points and leave. Or just shut up. You're just gonna be able to talking to yourself. Man. It just got dragged, bro. They argued for 2 hours, bro.
This is yes, because that's how you're choosing to look at it. You're choosing to see it as 2 people arguing for 2 hours.
They argued for 2 hours. they argue for 2. Might as well just end
I
the
don't.
relationship at that point.
I don't know. We speaking of ending
right.
relationships, I know we want to end the pod. So
Yeah.
I'm going to get us out on this note. Just Senator Warren has just laid out her tax for her wealth tax proposal, which is good to know. And I think it's so someone who wants to see Warren become a president because of her ideas for to enact these kind of policies. I think it's something to look forward to. And
Love Warren.
I guess as it gets rolled out, we'll come back and discuss it in our next episode, right, guys?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So that's all we have it. Thank you so much for listening, guys. What we learned today from the podcast: war is bad. Don't
say
argue.
No to war.
Say no to war. Don't argue for 2 hours. Just end it.
Just walk away.
Watch Billions for a couple of seasons before it gets kind of old.
3 seasons, guys.
Make sure y'all watch the Tom and Jerry movie.
The same person.
We love Cory Booker in this instance. Ryan's alone in his own hell. But once again, thank you guys. This is a good podcast. Please follow us on What You Expect Liberalish on Twitter. Please like and subscribe us anywhere you can find podcasts and on YouTube. If you like our show, if you like our podcast, share it to someone else, help us grow. If you think we could do something a little bit better, maybe we cover some things, maybe you want to fact check us, hit us up on Twitter. We don't bite. You let us know. We'll respond back because we have nothing else to do. So that's all I got for today, guys. And we're out.